So we'll start at I think 10:05 Eastern. So just giving people a couple more minutes to trickle in. Um, I'm sorry, I should have figured out how to like pipe in music to Zoom, but I'm not that tech savvy, which is sad because I'm calling from DataKind. But
hopefully the sound of the birds chirping from my end will filter in.
and for attendees, you should not be able to be on mic or on video. Because we had over 60 registrants and we've already got 25 in the room. We just ask that if you have questions or comments, if you could put them into the chat rather than trying to have all 25 plus of us talking at once. If you're having trouble with your audio, are you having trouble hearing audio, or are you having trouble adding in your microphone? You should not be able to add in your microphone. All right. Well, I said we get started at 10:05, so we are at the not quite the top of the hour anymore. But thanks everyone for attending. We've got about 26 people in the room so far, and Sam and I are really excited to be talking Colandr with you today. So as advertised, this is a Colandr training event, and I'm going to hand it over to Sam to do quick intro to both what we're covering today, and then intro to her and I.
All right. Thanks, Caitlin. So again, thank you everyone for attending this webinar. We hope it is quite useful, and we appreciate you using Colandr for the many needs that I'm sure you have with evidence synthesis. We're happy to answer any questions today. So to start, a quick introduction. My name is Sam Cheng. I am over at Arizona State University at the Center for Biodiversity Outcomes, and I am the Associate Director for Conservation Evidence. And Caitlin?
Yeah, and I'm Caitlin Augustine. I'm the Director of Product for DataKind. The genesis of this project was actually, it started as a partnership between Sam's postdoc group at NCEAS and DataKind as a volunteer pro bono project that was supposed to take 6 months. I think you'll probably hear us mention a couple of times. It took us 18 months to build Colandr as a complete team of volunteers, so truly a labor of love. Over that time, I also finished a PhD and rolled into a postdoc at DataKind, so you've also experienced Sam and I's professional journeys throughout this process. And DataKind is a organization that is dedicated to data science in the service of humanity. So we work with social sector organizations, primarily nonprofits, to build data science solutions. So when NCEAS and Conservation International came to DataKind to look for and help building a technology solution for evidence synthesis, that's how we were connected to Colandr.
All right. So today we are going to talk about how we came about creating Colandr. and where Colandr fits within the set of tools that you could be using for evidence synthesis and its capabilities. We'll take you to the process of joining Colandr, creating your own review, and walking you through those steps of that review, and running through sort of the basic parts of the synthesis process and how Colandr is designed to help you move forward. We'll also introduce you to the Colandr community, which is a open community on the internet that allows you to interact with other users, ask questions, and learn more about Colandr as you move forward in your work. And the next steps the same. And we'll talk more about that community at the end if you're interested in joining more. Okay. Oops, sorry, my window's getting chat windowed out. All right, so what we would like you to do today, or we'd like to impart to you today, is a familiarity with how Colandr works. And so again, like I said, we'll take you through the steps of how Colandr functions, the different parts of it that may correspond with your synthesis review. And we want you to get comfortable in creating a review. So we have the opportunity for you all to ask questions. Probably the best way of doing this will be to ask your questions within the chat window while Caitlin and I are speaking, and then we'll have some pauses where we'll address those questions and get to some of your concerns. We do have you on mute, and if we need to ask further clarifications, we'll unmute you so you can ask your questions and clarify your points. Okay. Okay, so to get started, we want to make sure as we move into this that you've signed up for Colandr. And I did email out a set of resources yesterday that included links to the how-to docs, some training materials, and the frequently asked questions. And you can access all of those at the Colandr community website that's listed there. So before we begin, just make sure as I go through this introduction that you've signed into Colandr. And if you do want to participate and upload your own training materials, if for a sort of test review, I would go ahead and download this now from the link I sent out in the email. Otherwise, if you're at the community site, go to colandrcommunity.com, go to training, and you should find download links to training materials there. All right. Okay, so as Caitlin mentioned before, Colandr came out of an effort from the Evidence-Based Conservation Working Group that was funded by the Science for Nature and People Partnership. And that partnership is a funding mechanism that brings together interdisciplinary and multi-sector groups to answer some of the big challenges in conservation that we're facing today. So our group was interested in looking at how do we progress forward evidence-based decision-making, evidence-informed decision-making, and evidence-informed practice in conservation and sustainable development. And one of the ways that we started addressing this was using these methods of evidence synthesis. And as I'm sure you all well know, the ability of systematic evidence synthesis to try and comprehensively capture the evidence base is a really large benefit to trying to understand what is the state of knowledge on a certain topic, and trying to understand impacts and effectiveness from the broad base of evidence that's both collected in an unbiased way, in a transparent way, and is as comprehensive as possible. But in that comprehension, you may end up sorting through a lot of information. So we learned the hard way by doing this manually, where we started a systematic map documenting the evidence for the impacts of conservation, nature-based conservation interventions on human well-being. And what we ended up with was about 35,000 potentially relevant citations from these peer-reviewed articles in great literature. And it took us, I would guess, about 8 to 9 months to get through those, with 2 people sort of working on their own time, in the middle of the night, early in the morning, on planes, on trains, and cars, to get it down to those 3,000 relevant articles. And from that, after reading through all that full text, we ended with about 1,000. And so our rate of return manually doing this is quite intense. I'm not sure what's happening to the screen. And we realized we really needed a better way to get through these piles of citations, as we call it, than manually sorting it, since this whole process took us about 2.5 years of getting from the initial search to the final systematic review or systematic map paper. And at that point, the data was already getting out of date. Could you go to the next slide? So what we tried to do here was to use machine learning to try and make this process both faster and more efficient, to help us sort through these articles using more intelligent ways of filtering and selecting. And so through our working group, we partnered with DataKind and Colandr and with Conservation International to create Colandr. So you can learn more about Colandr from the paper we just released a couple months ago in Conservation Biology that talks about the functionality of Colandr and why we need machine learning to advance synthesis in conservation environmental evidence. So that's an open access paper that you can get online. And so what Colandr is designed to do is to speed up and make the process more efficient at 2 stages of the synthesis process. In the first stage, in our what we call System 1, Colandr will help you screen through your citations at the title and abstract stage, so just after searching. And what it does is it iteratively learns what's relevant to you as the review user, and will start ranking the citations that you're covering based on its relevance to each review. So as you screen your citations, it will start learning relevance and start to push up studies that are more relevant to you to the top. And then our second system is helping you more intuitively and intelligently go through your data extraction. So during the data extraction stage, you can pull out information on all sorts of different topics. And oftentimes this can get quite tedious, depending on the volume of studies that you're going through. And what System 2 does is it learns what's relevant to each individual review, and will suggest labels for different articles based on the labels that you've created. So for example, if you were looking for papers that talked about different types of trees, whether you're looking at palm trees or flowering bushes, and I apologize, I'm pulling these examples from staring out in the yard now, and you had a set of labels for those different types of trees. After you've labeled a training set, Colandr will then suggest labels for you for each article based on the text within that article. All right, could you go to the next slide, please? So we do have some figures that came from our paper that sort of summarize what Colandr does in a bit more detail, and hopefully will be helpful for you as you move forward. But I'll just go through these briefly since we want to save more time for going through the actual training. But at the relevance ranking stage, you'll see that machine learning is happening as you go through your list of citations and rank what's relevant. And this will happen iteratively. So as you rank your studies, it will keep informing the model and updating the list of citations. And from this, you can download, you'll get a list of your potentially relevant articles, and then you can also get a record of all of your screening decisions in a CSV format, which you can open in Excel. Okay, for your next slide. And then in the second stage with data extraction, you'll have to upload your own full text PDFs, but as you run through these and you start to label those different categories that you've defined, this will train the model and inform the global, I actually have now forgotten, the global objects vectors something model, which basically learns where your words are in relation to other words within the text. And it will start to suggest these labels with different degrees of confidence. And then you can download that data that you've extracted within a CSV format, again, that you can open in something like Excel or a spreadsheet. Global vector for word representation. Thank you, Caitlin. Okay, and then the next slide. So, and we just want to illustrate here. Oh, is there
yeah, Sam. So before we move to this, just a quick question from Pamela. A general recommendation for the size number of articles for both System 1 and System 2. So Pamela, this is actually built into the system. So System 1 will actually start learning after 10 articles have been reviewed in System 1. So reviewed on title, author, abstract. Every 10 articles, the algorithm will learn and will refine so that you can refresh your page and you'll have a new relevance ranking of your papers. For the second, for System 2, it'll start learning after you've manually tagged 35 articles. So the more you tag, the better the algorithms perform, but they start learning at those 2 minimum steps. So sorry, Sam, I will hand it back to you.
Oh, no worries.
And yes, it learns from rejected articles. So accepted or rejected, it's learning from both processes. And I will also just quickly post here a link to just a more nuts and bolts presentation where you can read through what the algorithms and the steps behind it are. And we can use that in the Q&A later as well.
Thanks, Caitlin. And a question just came up from Thomas here about whether Colandr works just for the hard sciences or also social sciences. So Colandr is domain agnostic. You can use this for any topic that you would like because it's learning from the language, the words that are contained within those citations and within those texts. It'll be learning from that. So you can use it for any topic area. I will say that Colandr does not work for non-English language at the moment. So when you're going through those articles, I know we do try and have quite comprehensive searches. It will not be able to sort through any non-English ones. No problem. All right. So just to sort of finish up this intro here, we do want to give you guys an idea of sort of where Colandr sits within the universe of tools that exists for evidence synthesis. I think the field of tech assistance for running through these different types of reviews has really grown over the past number of years. And there's sort of a plethora of tools out there with different capabilities. And so we just want to illustrate that Colandr can help you at various points of this. It's designed to help you through every part of the review process except for in facilitation. So when you set up your review and you're scoping the question, engaging with stakeholders, this part Colandr does not facilitate. It's often a bit easier to do this in person and meetings, etc. And then the second part of the review or the review process that Colandr cannot assist with is critical appraisal. Where you're really going through and classifying site quality. It will not do this automatically. You can do this in different ways, for example, when you're coding the data. And actually calculating these risk of bias assessments, you'll have to do this on your own outside of Colandr. All right. And Caitlin, I will turn this over to you and I will take over the chat.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to get started on using Colandr. So the first thing is signing up for colandrapp.com. So if you signed up, awesome. If not, use the opportunity in this section to sign up for the tool. Please post into the chat immediately if you have not, if you've signed up and you have not received a confirmation email. Confirmation emails should be sent nearly instantaneously. If you haven't received one within 5 minutes of signing up, please let Sam or I know, because when there's just a bug or we'll call it an enthusiasm bug in the system, where if we have so many signups at the same time, the signups get jammed and we just have to manually approve you. So very easy for us to do. Just let us know if you haven't received your confirmation email. Within your sign up, you'll get a confirmation email, and you must click on the confirmation link within 24 hours. Otherwise, it expires and you'll need us to manually set you up anyways. You can do a password reset within this system, and you have to have an account to be a collaborator. So if it's not only that you need to own an account in order to be the one who owns a review, to even have to collaborate, you need to have an account. So let me log out so you can see what it looks like. So this is the homepage. It's the colanderapp.com. When you go to log in, you can see I have a lot of different memberships on this account, but I'm going to log in with my email and password, and I will sign in. So the first thing you see when you sign in are all of the various reviews that you have set up. But I mentioned talking about the just getting your account set up. So you can update your info. You can change your name, change your email address. You can change your password in here. You can also, if you forgot your password, you could change it on the sign-in screen. You can delete your account. Deleting your account is non-reversible. So that's just something for you to know, but you just know you can do that. And I mentioned that you need an account to be a collaborator. We'll talk about what collaboration looks like later and how collaborators work, but in order to be a collaborator, you need an account. So if I were to add someone like someone at DataKind who I'm pretty sure does not have a membership, we'll see in a sec. Oh, apparently he does. Let's try someone else. You are unable to add them until they have joined Colandr. So, so that's the first thing on sign up. So before we keep moving here, I see there are a couple of questions on sign up. So downloading the RIS file, I guess, is anyone else having an issue downloading that file? Let me try it really quick to see if I am having any issues with it. If so, we can certainly post into the I think I just had no issue to download in Chrome. So here I'll pull it into this view. So so within the prep materials, if you're in.
Okay. Hey, Caitlin, I think I've
Sure.
been able to just drop it in the window, hopefully.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and
you got it. Okay, good.
Here's link. So this is where you can download from. There's just a couple of sample files. You can download the entirety of the file set, or if you just right click and download, shouldn't be a problem there either. So yeah, I just downloaded it. I downloaded one of them. So it doesn't really matter which of the three you download, they're just samples for you to use. Okay, so that is set up. So if you have not successfully registered, please chat Sam and she will help you get registered for Colandr. And as I said, you need to have the account to collaborate on a review. Okay, so the next thing is establishing a review. So creating a review within the Colandr tool. The key features of this section, it's a guided review setup, so it takes you through the Pico process. You have the ability, you have a chance to develop your Boolean search string. So if you have not already done your search in something like Web of Science and Scopus, etc., Colandr will output the search string for you to use within those tools. And then within your setup, you will establish your selection criteria and your data extraction rules. You absolutely need to do this. Without setting those pieces up, you won't have the ability to actually reject citations, and you will not have the ability to actually do data extraction. So you need to fill out those parts of your review setup in order to continue progressing through the review. So inside Colandr, whenever you're having an issue, if you always click on the Colandr, it'll take you back to your reviews, your home screen. So if we were to go create review, you can name it. So this would be our demo review 1. We just put a little description. This has no bearing. This is completely for your organizational just kind of capabilities. And then if we create it, your newest reviews are always added at the bottom. So there is no sorting in here other than just by frequency. So it doesn't sort alphabetically. So in here, we go to the planning phase. So you can add in the objective. We say objective doesn't have an impact on what you are doing there. And yes, so there is a way to delete reviews. So let me quickly show you where that is. If we go to settings, you can delete it in there. So within your review settings, you can only the owner of the review can ever change the basic information of the review. You can add collaborators. You can also remove collaborators within the settings. So one thing to note though, and I'll ask Sam to give a little bit more detail on this in a second because it was her use case. As you change and add reviewers, and you change your requirements on screeners, whatever was screened within the time period of the rules that you set up still follow those particular reviews. So right now I'm saying this is just me doing a review. All I need is one screener per citation. So in system 1, I only need one screener per full text. I could change those to requiring 2 screeners whenever I added a collaborator. You can freeze your review. So if you wanted to stop working on your review, you can click freeze. Only the owner of the review can freeze the review. Only the owner can unfreeze the review. So if you're a collaborator, you can't do this. And then again, only the owner can delete a review. If you delete the review, it is not reversible. So if you delete it, it's gone forever. So would encourage you, if it is a review that has material that's important to you or could be important, freeze it or just ignore it within your system rather than deleting it. But that is the review setup. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
No, it's fine. Did you want me to cover a little bit on the number of users?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. So as I think many of you know, when you're conducting a synthesis, you often need to review studies by more than one user or more than one reviewer and to ensure that there's consistency in coding between yourselves. However, depending on the size of the review, you may not always want every single citation to be reviewed by more than one reviewer. And so in this case, with the collaboration setting, you'll have to do a little bit of, I guess we could call it a hack, where you can set your number of users to 2 to start with, to go through your consistency check. And if you want to switch it back to 1 later, that's fine. However, any studies that were screened when your number of screeners or number of users was set to 2 per citation or per full text article you will have to screen them with 2 people to get them out of the awaiting stage, where it's awaiting the coding from another user to get it to your final list. So ensure that when you switch it from 2 to 1, that you've gone through all of those studies that have been screened side by side before you switch it. Otherwise, those other studies will be trapped in that sort of awaiting stage. And we learned that the hard way.
Awesome. And okay, so let's take a look. So if you are that was the setting sort of view. In planning, you need to fill in. Objective is up to you if you want to fill it in or not. Your PICO, again, it's up to you. Your population, your intervention, your comparison, your outcome. Research questions, it's up to you. These 3 parts don't have an impact on the algorithmic process. They're just for you for organization. So Pamela, you can have there's no cap on collaborators, but you and they do not have to be the same 2 screeners right now. That if that is something that's been flagged for us for methodological purposes, that there should be restrictions that you should be able to designate screeners. It's something that's in queue for future development. You do need to put in your search terms, because this is where this information, search terms is what system 1 initially starts to learn on. It just starts to learn on the keywords that you've used and the selection criteria. So you add a key term, you would add the term, any synonyms, and any associated group for that term. Selection criteria, this is what you would include or exclude a citation on. So this is in your title, both in title, abstract, author, and in your full text screen for inclusion or exclusion. And then your data extraction, this is in system 2. I'm going to switch to a view of a review that's fully filled out so that you can see what that looks like. Sam, did I miss covering anything that you think is important to touch on here?
No, I think this will be good to run through what a review looks like once we've filled out the planning. So I think this works great.
Yeah. So and then also, if you want to be added to this demo, I think at this point we have over 20 collaborators. So we can add you so that you can see just what a review that is filled out and has information in it is that. So, all right, so this is just what it looks like when you have an objective, your PICO filled in, your research questions filled in. You can always delete them with these documents over there. And then, Sam, adding, if you this is not something I can actually do I can do this in real time. If you if you could put your email address in here, that way I will automatically just add you in just a second. And I can start doing that. Well, Sam, if you want to explain the different breakdown here in the search terms.
Sure, will do. Okay, so when you structure your searching, actually, you know what, Caitlin, do you want me to switch screens with you?
Yeah, that'd be great. You can just take over while I add everyone to the review.
Sure, let me get into, you're in the demo, right? The conservation demo? Okay. All right. Okay. You actually need to let me screen share.
Okay. Sorry, folks. We're obviously learning how to do this live.
Bit of a technical difficulty.
Okay. So Sam, you're the host now, so you'll just have to hand it back to me when you want me to share again.
All right. Share screen. Okay. Now, can everyone see this this window? I assume so, since I don't want you to actually type in the media of the chat window. Okay. So when you're within your planning stage, you can run through the different stages of planning your review. So having your objective and having the PICO filled out does not inform the machine learning model, but what it does do is at least share this criteria and sort of create sort of a shared space where everyone is working off the same set of information within your review team. And then within the review questions, you can add as many of these as you want. Just ensure that when you are in this, that you save each of your questions. And you'll see that this is grayed out because I'm not the owner of this review. But the same principles should apply. So getting down to some of the questions that people have around the search terms. So when you structure your search string, you're looking to link together different search terms with either and or Boolean operators. So when we talk about this term, the synonyms, and the group, this could be ways that you shape your search string to allow it to search for different variations on your terms. So for example, here we have the term well-being, but there are different ways of talking about well-being or spelling well-being in this case. And then the group, this is what you want your search terms to be connected with ORs. So for example, if you're looking for, in this case, terms that refer to human well-being, you want to have your human well-being terms connected with OR. So you're looking for papers that have any one of these terms. So we call this our outcome group. You can call it whichever group you want. But by assigning terms to the same group, it means that in your search strings, when you look down here, it's very long, in your search query, you see that all of the well-being terms are connected with ORs within one set of parentheses, which means when you use a search string within a database, for example, within a peer-reviewed literature database like Web of Science, it'll be searching for any of these terms within these parentheses and any of these terms within this set of parentheses going down to here. And so when you're structuring your search term, your search string, you want to make sure that you connect the right terms together. So for example, Malin has a question about adding Boolean operators to group. In that case, if you've added them with ORs, but you actually want to separate them into two separate groups that are connected with and, it may mess up your grouping. So anything that has the same group will be grouped together with OR. Anything that has different group that's in a different group will be grouped with a mixed group with an and, if that makes sense. And you can play around with this, and you can see as you change your search string and what words you include, that it'll change your Boolean search string. Another way of doing this, if you just want to list all of the different potential possibilities for an intervention type within one line, you can also do that. This is really a personal preference in seeing how you're thinking of the different synonyms for the different terms, and so you can get more people to collaborate and have a conversation about that. So there's a question here about and PICO and objective. So again, just to confirm, different types of systematic evidence syntheses, whether you're doing a rapid review, a realist review, a systematic review, or systematic map, etc., will have different requirements. The objective and the PICO portions of this are not used to inform the machine learning model. So within the planning stage, the key sections to fill out that will help inform the model and will push forward your review are the search terms, and let me scroll here, and the selection criteria. So without setting your selection criteria, you won't be able to include or exclude any articles at any stage. And so in this case, we're setting our selection criteria, for example, here, for location. So we may exclude an article because it occurs in a OECD country. So here's our definition here. And the next one says that you would exclude an article if it has an undefined population. So our studies must include a discrete population and not undefined groups or populations, or sort of talking about global good. And so you can define your selection criteria in any way that you choose. It is useful to have the description there so that if you have multiple reviewers, everyone's clear of what each criteria means. And you can, and then once you've added those, you can save it. And so you can add additional terms as you go along. Caitlin, I don't know if you want to take over from here or if you've added everyone. Just send me a chat ping if you do.
Yeah, everyone has been added. So if you switch host back over to me, I will
All right.
share my screen.
It might be easier with seeing what it looks like as the review owner. And this is participants.
If you highlight me, there should be a
Okay.
more. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Great. So so keep questions coming. Sam's going to take over answering those.
Sure. And as Caitlin goes into this, I'll answer Lily's last questions in this part about search terms. And so when you add your terms in not consecutive order of their grouping, that's okay. So as long as it's assigned to the same group, they'll be connected with an or. Whereas if you assign terms to a different group, it will connect all of those terms within that group to other groups with an and. And then your search query. Okay, so Morgan's question about whether or not your Boolean search query is pre or post scoping. So this is something that is often an iterative process within the scoping. So when you're designing your search string, you do want to be testing sort of whether or not your different terms are turning out relevant or irrelevant articles, or whether they're too specific or too general. And so you want to do this as you're doing your scoping of your review, and you'll come to a final set of search queries, or your final search query that will then use to find the results you'll use for your screening and the rest of your review.
So Sam, just a quick question from Malin earlier. If you put your Boolean search terms in, like you already put your or and your and, so just as a quick example, I changed this from well-being to well-being or, you'll see in the Boolean search string, once I've saved it, it becomes well-being or well-being or well-being. So you don't want to try to outsmart this tool. It will naturally put in the Boolean strings for you. And so as Sam was saying, as long as the group is the same, everything within your group will be nested as ors, and then it'll be an and with the next group. So we have we have a lot of different outcome groups. So we have well-being or this way. So it could be one of those three, or then one of these two, or this, but then it will be and intervention qualifiers, and then ors within our intervention qualifiers group. And this is iterative. You can, every time you can add key terms, you can save it. You can, you can delete your key terms, etc. The next piece of this is making sure that you put in your selection criteria. So this is how you would accept or reject citations. So you need to have some amount of information that you can assess on. Otherwise, you cannot move forward with your assessment. And what this looks like, we'll see it in the System 1 section. And then the same thing here. Again, since reviews are iterative, if you found you were missing something or you were trying to screen on a piece of information that wasn't contained within the system, you can always add an item later. And then here, this is your data extraction. So this would be how your data is being screened in System 2, and the type of information you want to extract out. So you need to have as much information as you want to extract pre-established before you try to do extraction. So this is all, I think this was everything in, so this is just establishing the review, key features. We talked about the owners and collaborators. Sam mentioned that you don't want to have articles that are left hanging. We talked about what the owner does and does not control. So now moving into the actual system one. So within system one, you have a data upload. The data upload, this is just the key set of information here. You can upload RIS files, bib files, and text files. If you have a CSV, you need to convert it to one of these. If your text file is unstructured, like you are creating that text file, you need to structure it the way that a standard citation file like a RIS or bib would look. So that what that just means is that you need the information that an RIS or bib would have for the text file to be uploaded. This is limited because we had to put some sort of cap on the variance of upload that could occur, and we found that in our user study, most people were exporting out of Mendeley or EndNote or a other database manager, so they were naturally already exporting as RIS or bib files. Something to know that when you do an import, you cannot delete. So you cannot delete the upload, so just make sure you know what you're uploading and why. We know this, it feels like it could be an inconvenience for people, but we don't have a clean way to do a massive deletion of a upload. Your max single import size is 40 megabytes. That's 15 to 20,000 citations. So if you have more than that, you can just chunk it into multiple uploads. I mentioned that this system one learns after 10 reviews. And a big thing for you to know is that Colandr does not do anything automatically. It's computer assisted, not computer directed. So you as a human still need to make a final decision. So you have to make an include or exclude decision here. So those are the key features. You've already, I think, seen the sample files. So if we were to go into the screening part of a review, this is what it looks like. So
Caitlin, I'm not sure if you answered this, but there was a question about imports, that you, whether or not you can delete an import.
yeah, I had, sorry, did I maybe cut out for a second there?
I don't know. I might have also missed it. Just
yes.
wanted to check.
Yeah, no, I definitely said it. You cannot delete an import. So just there is no massive deletion option. So just be careful as you do your uploads, because if you upload the same data set twice, there will be a dedupe process. You cannot so any upload you do has to be a RIS, bib, or text file. Same thing applies. You cannot, anything that's uploaded, regardless of file size, cannot then be deleted. And then also when you, there is a dedupe that runs. So if you do upload two identical file sets, you will get it will be deduped. So any duplicates are removed. This is something that's been asked as a question before. You'll notice that authors are not conventional author format. So the first author is not the first author who is necessarily listed on the paper. Every author string is sorted into alphabetical, so it is a fast match on dedupes. So that is just a change that happens in this, so that the process can quickly remove duplicate papers. And you cannot delete uploads. You can tag things as ignored. So in this, you can add tags. So you can tag with information. Like I could tag something for Sam review this, and that would be a tag that Sam could then go and filter for later. And so you could certainly, if you have an issue, you could put a tag in and as ignore, and you could filter by that, or you could just see that that's there and just ignore it. So there are two ways to view your papers. The value of Colandr is this relevance ranking. However, if you wanted to only use Colandr simply as a repository and you did not want to use any of the machine learning features, you could sort by recently added. And that would just be by what has been added into the system. So this would approximate most closely how people do kind of reviews. I would say standard reviews of multiple.
Sort of the manual method, yeah.
Yeah. But we prefer the relevance ranking. So you have the option to turn highlights on or off, and that what highlights are key terms from your planning phase. So this is highlighting terms that we can considered valuable in our planning phase. So if we were to exclude, we would need to identify why we are excluding. This was part of our inclusion and exclusion criteria there. And then if you click on the card, it'll open up and give you the abstract and the keywords from the import that you did. Opportunity to review the identified duplicates. There is not an opportunity to review the duplicates. However, only exact duplicate matches are reviewed. It's a very risk-averse duplicate review process, so it needs to be an exact match on title, author, and abstract in order to be removed. And it will, the duplicate process will run every time a new upload happens. And depending on the size of the upload and the number of duplicates, it can happen instantaneously or take anywhere up to about 3 hours for duplicates to be removed. But again, Sarah, to your question, the duplicate removal process only removes exact matches. So it's low risk. And it does mean that if you had citations that were imported in 2 different formats where author names might have been either differently spelled or truncated in different fashions, or if the title was truncated in some way, you might have 2 duplicates show up in your paper or in your screening process because they are not being flagged as exact matches. And then you have
Can I just add to that quickly? So while you may not be able to review and approve or reject the duplicates, when you export your final coding results, you will be able to see which articles were flagged as a duplicate or not. And so there'll be a column for that. And we'll go over that when we talk about the export.
Yeah. And then, so another thing, so you don't need to, you can skip papers, which you would look at them later. And then if any papers were in conflict, so the same way a manual review, you only talk about your reviews after you've completed them with your reviewing partner. The same thing here, you would see what reviews are in conflict, and you must get into alignment in order to allow the paper to progress. and I can only control my decision. Even as the review owner, I could not override my screening partner. So I accepted this. Burton rejected it. He rejected it on outcome. I would have to change. Either I could remove my screen, which would put this back into the pot and allow another collaborator to review it, or I could switch what my review is. And that just shows you that you have the same kind of process as on you would in a manual screen. What else here? Yeah, so I mentioned this. So Colandr first learns relevance from scratch. So this is where if you simply put in all the reviews, like just a blind, unscreened set of reviews, it will first go for relevance based on it's a word to vec algorithm, which means that it's looking for relationships between words. First, looking at the keywords, so like how often your keywords are showing up, and what are the clusters and the relationships between the keywords. As you go through screening, it will expand. So not only is it looking for those keywords, but it's looking for sentences or usage of your keywords or information that matches across the greater repository. So that is the way that it's learning from scratch. Sam, I'm just going to ask you to explain more the training set, because you've actually used this in some of your practice reviews. That Colandr can learn from a training set. So
yes, sure, yeah. So one of the things part of the reason why we thought, hey, can we learn from what we've done, since we have screened these 35,000 citations, to help us update our review. So Colandr is fantastic for helping you start a review from scratch, but it can also help you update existing reviews. So if you upload, say, a set of included articles as a citation file, when you import it, you can set the status to, right now it says, you can see in that picture there, it says not screened. You can set that to included, and then it will learn that these are things that you're looking for. You can also, if you have it, upload a set of citations of what you've excluded from previous reviews, and set that to excluded. So now you have a training set of what's included and excluded. So you're sort of giving yourself a step up. So when you upload a new set of citations, say you've searched in the past 3 years, and you've uploaded your new set of citations as not screened, that algorithm will already be informed by, say, the however many hundreds or potentially however many thousands of citations you've already gone through. And this is something that, we're testing to see how much more efficient it really makes it. But just for you guys to know, this is also a functionality that you can use.
So this is helpful if you are updating a review. So like this Conservation International demo, this is actually based on real review data that was published by Sam and her research group in Nature, Sam, right? A couple of years ago, like 20.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're updating a review, you obviously don't need to start from scratch. You can use your existing data. The import, so if you are in your review, we talked about settings. This is where your import is. So you would be importing, you would select your data source, if it's a database or gray literature. At this point, I don't think anyone's really importing from gray literature. That's often included within your database, your Scopus, et cetera. And then this is where, as Sam mentioned, you can do your included or excluded, which just already primes the data. Jackie, you cannot separate it. So it is, when you import it, it just becomes part of your master set of citations. Wow, we are actually already at an hour, so I'm going to keep moving here. Okay, so system 2, reviews and data extraction. Key features of full text review. Full text can only be evaluated for papers that have passed system 1 screening. Again, Colandr, you still have to make the final decision. You cannot delete imported papers. You also have to upload your papers one at a time. We understand that that is inconvenient. However, matching PDF file names to actual citations is something that we have not figured out how to set up. So if you are a programmer who would like to do that for us and come up with a way to do batch uploading of papers to existing RIS files, we'd love to talk to you. But you can do batch downloads of PDFs. There's a script from Stephen Wood who's done that. So if you're batch downloading your files out of something like Web of Science, you can do a large download. So that at least makes the process a little easier. And then within data extraction, the point of the data extraction phase is rather than having the user read an entire paper of these thousands that have moved through system one in the screening, you need to screen 35 papers before it starts to learn. And what this then prompts for you is you have a data extraction that you care about, like outcome type, particularly subjective well-being. The system 2 will surface relevant sentences to you. So for screening. So rather than reading the whole paper, you simply have to screen these sentences to determine if this paper does contain information on outcome type subjective well-being. And there is a confidence associated to each of those sentences. So is it high confidence? Does the algorithm have high confidence that this sentence really contains that information or not? So looking again in our review, in our full text screening, so you can see, just really quickly, citation screening, there have been 711 included. So 711 is what the sum here is that's been available for full text screening. You can review the full text. It should pop up. You have to add full text, and the same, again, exclusion rules that you've established apply here. So that's just the full text phase. The full text screening does not learn any more. It's just a step between systems 1 and system 2. And then in data extraction is only based on what has made it through system, made it through the full text screening. And because we've only screened 33 here, it's not actually learning. Sam, do you want?
Yeah, you want to switch to me, and I can show what that looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just give you ownership.
Okay.
So that you can
just get to that review.
Where's the total people? Yep. So. All right, so Sam, you are hosting again. So Sam's going to show what the data extraction looks like, because this demo does not has not had enough data extracted to show you what it looks like automatically.
All right. So in this window, you'll see that I'm back at the data extraction stage, and you'll see there's not started here at the bottom. And when you get to the stage and you have reviewed over 30 articles and added those labels, you'll see that there's an option to review labels now. So prior it said label summary, and you could add in the labels manually. Now when you click on review labels, oops, I'm just trying to move this chat here. Oh, is this not, what's happening here? Sorry, I'm having a window, it's not showing me everything. Let me go to finish maybe instead. View labels. Reopen. Huh. Okay, I seem to be having a similar issue, which is strange because I was just in this. Let's pick this one. So if you click on final, oh, what? I can't scroll in this window. I'm not sure what's happening here. I apologize, guys. I'm just having some issues showing you this, which is strange because we were just in this. Maybe I'm in the wrong review. Nope. All right. Well, I'll explain it instead, and perhaps we can pull up. I shall pull up this. So what it looks like when. Okay. So hopefully you should be able to see this now, and you can see here in data extraction, when you click on the review labels part, you should see a page pop up like this that says label review. And it will suggest to you different sentences that relate to the label that you're interested in assigning. And so it will tell you whether something has high confidence or low confidence, and whether or not that label, those sentences are related to that label. And then you can read through these and you can choose to accept, skip, or reject them. And you'll see that it will suggest a number of different labels. And because oftentimes your reviews can have more than one label per category, for example, an article can be talking about 2 different types of human well-being outcomes. And so you can accept both of those and reject whichever else ones you want to reject. Caitlin, I'll punt it back to you for now, because this seems to not be working.
Yeah, we'll just do a server reset, and it's likely just too many changes were happening in the system right now, and we'll get it fixed, and you should be working. It should be working momentarily.
All right, let me switch it back to
you. Running a pro bono tool, so apologies, folks. All right, so we're coming to the end, so let me get to sharing my screen one more time. So talk about data export. So the export process happens in, I closed out of Colandr. So within in the export, you click on export over here. You have a summary here. So how many studies you have, how many unique studies, so you can see a count of how many duplicates the system found, the Colandr found, how many screened citations, how many of those were excluded, how many screened full text, how many studies that you had data extracted on. And as we mentioned, we're just going to do a server reset to ensure that the data extraction is visible to you all. And then you have your exclusions by reason. So the reason you have excluded, you excluded these citations in your first phase. So this is helpful as you go through your process, because you can just kind of keep checking how much you've screened, what your information looks like. And then you can also export it as a CSV. The export is fairly quick, and let me just open up what it looks like for you. So the export is, it exports as a CSV file. That's pretty easy to just see in, Excel, or you could read it into R, your tool of choice. And what it has is, if the citation was deduplicated, if the citation was screened or not. So you can export throughout the process. So citation screen, full text screen, was the data extracted, which of your uploads did it come in. So you could be defining your uploads as you go, so data source name, and then the information on the citation itself. So the title, abstract, authors, journal, etc. And then if it was rejected, it'll have a flag for which of the rejection, what of your exclusion criteria. So you can do this at any point in your review process. For kind of an extension, this CSV is designed to be taken in by other visualizers. So there's a separate tool that Sam's research group ran through. It's the Nature and People Partnership portal. That is a tool where the code is available on GitHub that allows you to do heat maps of your evidence synthesis. And this CSV format was specifically designed to be easily taken in by that code. At its most basic level, this type of CSV is pretty easy to be read into any sort of heat mapping tool. So a way to visualize the data that you have. And let me switch back to sharing the slideshow.
Now I will mention that the data portal, the Evidence for Nature and People data portal, and this is an example of what it does. We are actually under new development, which we're relaunching, I hope, next week. So when you go to our website, it will give you an error message. But if you are interested to explore the portal, I do have an old link that I can share. It's just on a server, so I'm trying not to send that around too much. But do let me know if you're interested in seeing it. You can email us at colandrteam@gmail.com. And the code here is also available on GitHub, which I'll send out that link as well.
Yeah, so all the code for Colandr and for this portal, it's all open source, open access. So should you want to essentially build your own website and you have an EC2 instance, please feel free. Okay, so we're in the last 15 minutes. We're just a couple of other things. So we do want you to help us in research. So Sam and I are volunteers who maintain Colandr and maintain the community. We love to engage with you and to help out. So you can get us on Twitter. You can email us. Please email us at thecolandrteam@gmail.com. I know for a while our personal emails were up there. We realized it would be way easier to have you asking questions directly at Colandr. So do that. There's also the Colandr community website itself. Oops. Go back to sharing. There's a Google community that you can post in, and we try to respond to posts within the Google community like within 24 hours. So please feel free to post in here and have conversations in here as well. There is bug reporting, and I think a number of people on this call, you're reporting bugs. Please keep reporting bugs. Reporting a bug is not the best way to get a question answered. And also reporting a bug does not guarantee the bug will be fixed. Sam and I are volunteers working with other volunteers to keep this going. So reporting a bug brings it to our attention and puts it in a queue for future development. Unless it's something like today, what happened where the server needs to be reset so that the data extraction is visible, or something like you can't access your account because you never received a confirmation mail. Those types of bugs, please also email us about, because those are fast fixes that we just need to run a little code on our side. But if it's something larger, like you want to report a bug that you want the ability to do a mass delete of citations or of PDFs, that is something that you could put through here and just know it's not going to have an immediate solution. But we do want research partners, so you can contact us to do research with us. It's just a quick little form. We have a number of partnerships already going. University of Illinois presented at CEE, a conference just about a month and a half ago. They're testing Colandr against other evidence synthesis options. Sam and I are actually recruiting for a supplemental study. So if you are interested in being a tester, please let us know. We are continuing to conduct user studies to understand pain points. So please let us know if you are using Colandr and in a study you want to participate in future development. If you are using Colandr in a study and not connecting with Sam or I, all we ask is that you cite the ConBio paper so that we can actually see how Colandr is being used out there in the world. So please, again, I showed you Colandr community. You have all the code, you have the background. So if you want to know like how Colandr works, like what are the algorithms, you can view the GitHub repositories. A lot of very technical material, but there are 4 papers that form the algorithmic backbone of the machine learning within Colandr. They are all linked here, so you can read through those if you want some more knowledge on what does a word to vec actually mean, and why would that be appropriate for this relevance ranking. Also within our updates, this is a loose sort of blog-ish space where as we do presentations and as we do trainings, Sam and I try to put those in here. So the recording from this as well as the slides will go into here. You can see our various presentations, so you could download presentation from a month or so ago. You can download our ICCB slides from last summer. You can connect with the broader evidence synthesis and technology group that Sam and I are both a part of through the conservation community. Though, as mentioned, this is domain agnostic. So while the examples we use are from our area of expertise, we'd love to continue to build a repository and database that's outside of our specific domain here. So please join us. And I think that's it for our presentation. I know I'm seeing that there's a lot coming into the chat, so maybe I will hand over over to Sam. So yes, I'm seeing, yes, data extraction. We will record a supplemental data extraction. We just need to do a server reset between when we were testing this 15 minutes before the webinar, and now something just shut down. So we'll just need to do that reset, and we'll record that for you. If you're using Colandr in a study, what do you need from us? So if you'd like to, be able to give us feedback from using Colandr study, please connect with us so that we can make sure we're capturing your feedback. So if you are having, say, students do a systematic review at your institution and they are giving you complaints, we have actually a user study form we'd love to have them fill out so that they could tell us what their complaints and issues are. If you are simply using it and you want to be able to compare it to another tool on the market or to a manual process, please just cite Colandr using the ConBio paper, and then send us the paper whenever you publish it, so that we can learn. Flora asks about customizing data extraction. You cannot export paragraphs that contain keywords. You're simply able to export. In the export, it's just that basic CSV, and it'll tell you what data, what of the pieces of data extraction, which of the keywords you're looking to identify within your paper. were actually within that paper itself.
So let me, maybe I can also provide a bit of context there. So in your data extraction, you might be looking for all sorts of different types of information. And when you're setting up your data extraction form, actually, Caitlin, do you want to share the screen back, or share the screen back, whichever it's called, switch it over to me, and I can show an example of the data extraction.
Sure thing. Let me do that right now. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay. Oops. Continue. Okay. Okay, so when you're in your data extraction form, you'll see that you can add a number of different types of I see what's going on here. You can add a number of different types of criteria. So let me just go to a review that I can actually show you this on. This one. Okay, so in the extraction form, you'll see here you can choose the type of whatever you're trying to extract. So in this case, I'm interested in publication year, and I want to limit whatever entries that are being input here as to integers. And then I can also add an item and say here I wanted to ask, what is context of study, for example, describe context. And so here I can say this is a text input. And so by adding that, when I am in the data extraction phase, I can type in text. I can copy a sentence or a couple of sentences from the paper as what I'm extracting. And so Flora, if this is what you mean by exporting paragraphs that contain certain keywords, if that's what you're interested in exporting, you can do it here, but you won't be able to export those paragraphs automatically. So it won't be able to find your keywords and export them for you. What it will do is it'll start to understand what types of paragraphs you're looking for, and it may suggest for a specific label of paragraph, what you're trying to do there. And really here, where you're adding labels, if you wanted to create a label, for example, here where it's, let's see, plant type. And here you wanted to have a select one. It will give you an option here now to give it the different labels of plant type that you might be interested in. So for example, if I want to say tree, shrub, flower, plants apparently, and root, vegetable, sure. And you save that, this will now become options for you to categorize your articles as you're going through data extraction. The other option is to say select many, and then you could flag an article as both being about trees and shrubs instead of just about trees. And let's save that. And so I think in this review, I don't think we actually have anything in data extraction. So for example, when you're going through this and let's see, I'll just have to add a random PDF here to this review, which might be this conference. So I've added a full text. Apologies, I think I'm uploading a conference brochure here. That might be very large. Now we can view the full text in our full text screening. Okay, apologies, this is clearly not the right paper. And you can click include. And just for the sake of showing you what the data extraction process looks like at the start, you can go down to data extraction. You'll see there's one that says not started. And then you want to go to review labels. And here you'll see that those labels that you've created are now on the side. So for example, publication year. If I try and enter something like frog, it won't let me enter any non-integer value. So I'm trying to type here. You can't see that, but you can enter that and click save. And that will save that one. This is going to be text. Pamela, to your question of whether for allowed values you list all synonyms. These are really just, this is for your data extraction, so how you're categorizing your papers. So for example, if you just wanted to say, I want to flag all papers that are about trees as tree, then that's fine. And so this is not necessarily learning about synonyms, but it's learning about what you're flagging different papers as. So it's learning from the whole suite of text data that are contained within an article, and whether or not it's categorized as one category or the other. And this is apparently having a difficult time saving. But then in the context of the study, here you can write, anything that you want. Conference brochure from meeting in 2018, for example, and save that. And then here where it says plant type, you can categorize it as one of these different options. And save, and it should eventually save them. I think I'm just on a slow connection here. But now you'll see that when you get back to the page, you'll have an option to finalize, and that will save all of these values, and it will inform the model. So once you've gone through 35 of these, it should pop up a little label that says label summary instead of review labels, and that will show you all those sentences that it's suggesting for you. Okay, but anyways, so we have a couple of minutes left, so I guess we can take any last questions.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, we'll be posting the slides, we'll be posting this training, and we'll record a full supplemental training on the data extraction. So just stay tuned for that as well. It'll be on the website. We'll post in the community. You have our email to reach out to us with further questions. You have us on Twitter. Thanks to a couple of people who were tweeting at us with us. Easy way to get a hold of us. And we're excited that you are using Colandr. We welcome feedback. It is a free tool run by volunteers. So really want it to be useful to the greater evidence synthesis community. So Pamela, to your question, right now it is, we're just set with PDFs, and it goes through OCR using Tesseract on the back end. So I do not believe we can take in XML files. Sam, anything in closing?
I don't think so. Again, just thank you, all of you, for bearing with us. And no, Jackie, you cannot take Word docs either. With the various things that I think come up with a very long process of developing this with a fantastic team of volunteers, and we do hope that Colandr is useful. So please let us know if you have questions. Bear with us with some patience if we don't respond immediately, as there's just two of us, but we do want to help you as best we can, and to make your evidence syntheses all the more less painful.
All right, and with that, have a great rest of your day. We will look forward to talking to you soon.